forever friends.
Knowledge without power, we all know, is not power at all, right? So we need the power to transform our relationships. And I think this concept that I, divinely kind of received in my last Interask workshop is going to help a lot of people do this. So I call it the 4P's. And I like to think of it, I always say my term of having a really good, long-lasting relationship, I call it forever friends. And I think this is the step of how you can start to structure that type of forever friendship, that relationship that, again, forever friendship is like a spiritual partnership where the two people allow themselves to align with the purpose of their relationship, more so than proceeding with the relationship first, trying to get, have almost like selfish ambition of wanting to get their wants and desires first. They want to align with the purpose of the relationship, and the way they can align with the purpose of the relationship is they can bring it back to the principle. So my 4P's are principle, pull, purpose, and power. All right, and I think it's meaty, so I'm just gonna focus on principle today. But the way that the step process goes is that basically our principles, right, the principles that govern the life that we live, right, that will inevitably govern our relationships, whether we know of it or not, conscious of it or not, is what creates the pull between two people, right? The principle creates the pull. The principles that govern our life, the way our life flows, and the patterns that, oh, Mr. Daly, hi. That's my musical mentor. I love you so much. But anyway, side note. So we have the principles that govern our life, right? So the principles that govern our life will inevitably flow into our relationships. And so the principle creates the pull that pulls us together with our partner, with our mates, and not just in a romantic sense, but every relationship that we have, right? And then the pull dictates the purpose, right? So the pull, there are certain reasons why people come into your life. And a lot of times in relationships, people force relationships. And that happens when you proceed with expectations, with trying to get your wants and desires first without trying to understand what the purpose of that relationship. So there's a pull that brings people together, and that pull then dictates the purpose of the relationship. And then once you establish the purpose of a relationship, then the power of the relationship can be released, right? So a lot of people want their relationships to be transformed, whether it be familial relationships that aren't good, or whether it be romantic relationships that they're having heavy conflict in. One of the things that they can go back on is what principles, do we even understand the principles that govern our life? Do we even what principles have we founded our relationship on? And when I say principles, again, I'm going to say I don't mean standards, because I think two people come into a relationship with different standards, right? We can even have the same word. We can say honesty, we can say trust and loyalty, and depending on a person's cultural upbringing or environmental learning, the way they process those two things can be very different. And when they don't meet in that same lane, then the other person says, oh, well, that person is not meeting my standards. But a principle is a fundamental truth. So it does not matter, again, about your cultural upbringing. It doesn't matter about your sexual orientation or your gender or anything. It will be. Stands the test of time, So in my video that I posted, I talked about reaping what you sow, right? That's something that, regardless if someone doesn't believe in it, it is a fundamental truth. And even if you feel like you've done something, whether it's negatively, that you feel like you're going to get away, at some point in life, karma is going to come, and then you're going to have to, be able to reap what you sowed, and also in a positive way. Another thing is a lot of times you'll hear you attract who you are. And I'm a firm believer of that. It's no difference from saying, if you're going to plant an apple seed, you're not going to expect to get oranges, because within the apple seed, you're going to get apples. It's the same thing. So if internally we have certain issues and certain things that we haven't worked out, you're going to attract people in your life who are going to expose those things, within you, so that either you can grow, to be able to grow through those things and advance, but those patterns and those cycles will continue to happen until you grow through it. So if there's a principle that, or those two people understand the principles that do govern their life, and they establish their relationship and the foundation of their relationship based on that, then there's a sturdy foundation. It's not something like standards can shift. We have so many standards right now in life that is shifting, that is actually going away from a fundamental truths that govern our life. So principle first, right? And then the principle establishes the pull between the two people, because once there's a principles that are within a relationship that are established, it's no matter what the conflicts, no matter what the challenges, they're always going to meet at the core of principle. They're always going to go back to the principles, because that is something that's impenetrable, that's something that's indestructible. It is a fundamental truth that they can solidly hold their relationship together. And then once they have the pull, then the pull will dictate the purpose, right? So you can be in a relationship and you can say, oh my God, we're always going through this, why are we always going through this? Why can't we see eye to eye? Instead of throwing darts at each other, right? There's a pull there, there's something, right? There's a universal pull, or God pulling you guys to see something so that you can actually work it out. And then that becomes, and honestly, especially if it's a conflict or a challenge, when you're in the midst of that, you'll see the purpose of why you're going through it, because it's something in that there is purpose, greater purpose, that can be developed out of it or produced out of it. And then once you get that purpose, then once you guys are dedicated and aligned to walking in your purpose together, the power in your relationship to not only transform your relationship, but also every person who you meet that comes in your space is just unbelievable. And that's what we need. That's what people are lacking, is the power to transform their relationship. So you can, try to learn and get as much knowledge as you want, but without the power to enforce what it is that you've learned, then it's not going to give you, you're not going to maximize the value of what you're learning.